Alright, let's go. It's time to check out some heartwarming, complex, interesting, likable characters in generally train wreck cartoons. Even if these characters don't save an otherwise lousy cartoon, they can certainly make these cartoons more interesting. So let's check out the top 6 best characters from bad cartoons. And as always, if you think these cartoons are good, that's great. It's just my usual silly personal opinion, and I'm glad you can enjoy them when I can't. Anyway, on to the countdown. Number 6. Raven from Teen Titans Go. Raven tends to be the odd one out in Teen Titans Go. While every single male character remains a completely intolerable, irritating, shouty cow pile, Raven is generally an okay character. While she still sometimes gets sucked into the ever-present vortex of inane, puerile stupidity that is Teen Titans Go, for the most part, she's still that contemplative, studious, and quietly spoken character we knew from the original Teen Titans. The usual tidal wave of stupidity can be erupting around her, and she still somehow remains the only character not affected by that ever-present vapidness. It's almost tragic, really. Both Starfire and Raven have perfectly serviceable voice acting, and honestly, beautiful singing voices. Yet it feels so wasted on these abysmal scripts and sad plot lines. I feel like these complex, beautiful characters are still hiding somewhere beneath the surface of this show. Very, very deep down, but somewhere. We just need one decent writer to actually let them blossom. But unfortunately, as we're now into season 4, this is looking less and less likely.
Silent but Deadly has a new meaning, yo! Ow!
And for number 5, Robotnik from Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Robotic rejects, seditious slabs of unsalubrious circuitry.
Even though this show is a guilty pleasure of mine, technically it's another half-broken, shoddy decanimation slapped together as quickly as possible. But strangely enough, when I look back at all the Robotnik reincarnations over the years, this Robotnik was easily my favorite.
I don't remember programming you to beat me!
I just found him the perfect comical villain. I love the fact that he's this brilliant genius, yet is constantly relying on the 2 stupidest inventions he's ever made. On top of that, it's really funny to see this 300 IQ genius somehow constantly fooled by Sonic's lame-brained, ridiculously obvious disguises.
You're under too much pressure.
You're telling me?
But seriously, how did he fall for Sonic in drag? I mean, to the point they actually officially married each other. Little known fact, Sonic and Robotnik are actually married in this series. They exchanged vows and kissed.
Ah!
That would make some strange fan fiction. But either way, Robotnik was a villain that felt powerful, yet still felt human and fallible. His voice actor obviously loved the role.
Vanished! Destroyed! Obliterated!
In this series, we get to see Robotnik in these odd settings that we'd otherwise never see Robotnik in. And this is probably the only time we've got to meet Robotnik's mother.
Nice to see you, Mama!
Nice to see you!
While Sonic and all the main cast of this show have a special place in my heart, Robotnik in particular really brought this otherwise lazy, campy, cheesy cartoon alive.
I hate that hedgehog! Ah!
And for number 4, Donald Duck from Quack. Regardless of how insufferable this 90s abomination's 3 main characters were, there's one character the writers simply couldn't change, because he's timeless, and that is Donald Duck. Despite all the infuriating behavior happening around him, Donald remains the same likable but temper-prone character he's been for nearly a century. In fact, I think Donald's antics translate really well to modern-day suburbia. In this series, Donald's a kind-hearted middle-aged uncle, and is just doing his best to look after his teenage nephews. Fortunately, garden chairs seem to have caused him more PTSD than the Navy did. And that's nice to see. It's also amusing to see him constantly getting roped into Daisy's crazy schemes. Daisy is another character who I think became so much better than the old feminine cliche we've had for Daisy for so many decades. rather than just being a female object for Donald to date. She's a wild, assertive, adventurous TV reporter now. Honestly, call me an old geezer, but I'd rather see Donald's awesome vacation slides than whatever 90s cliche, badly CG'd B-grade horror film his nephew seemed to be watching. Whenever Donald stumbles onto screen, I just start smiling. Donald Duck is a character you can put in any time, any setting, and he remains his usual short-tempered but charming self. And the third best character from a bad cartoon is the red guy from Cow and Chicken. To me anyway, Cow and Chicken is a literal dictionary definition of a B-grade cartoon.
Piggyback ride!
Hooray, happen!
It wasn't outright abysmal, but it certainly was forgettable. The stories tended to be surreal and stupid, ranging from episodes about tongue sandwiches to fried pork butts and taters to cow pies. A lot of the time I just found them kind of annoying.
Yo!
But whenever the red guy was on screen, he stole the spotlight and just drank in the role so much. I sometimes wonder if the writers just really wanted to make a cartoon about the red guy, so they just threw Cow and Chicken in at the last minute.
No! Bury that treasure!
The red guy was like this omnipotent, ever-present devil that just happened to appear in whatever stupid situation Cow and Chicken were thrown into. And sometimes he could turn a bad episode into something, well, almost good.
No! I'm a salesman!
My favorite episode is when he plays a mall cop. It just shows how he takes full advantage of every role. The red guy's mannerisms, the way his voice hangs on every line in that slightly effeminate way, the way he fits into every bizarre role they gave him, the red guy had such a strong presence that he made an otherwise below average forgettable cartoon really memorable. And the second best character from a bad cartoon is Mojo Jojo from Powerpuff Girls 2016. While most of the characters in this remake got a good butchering, Mojo Jojo has managed to mostly remain his charming old diabolical self. He doesn't often get the spotlight, but the occasional Mojo skit does help keep that tiny ember of the original Powerpuff Girls still lit in this remake. While his evil schemes are a bit more meme-ish now,
For Mojo's deadly kitten army!
they're still absurd and ridiculous enough that he remains the highlight of the show. Unfortunately, the main focus of the show tends to remain on Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup, who have become considerably less charming than all the villains. Sadly, Mojo's old, hilarious, over-analytical speeches seem to have mostly taken a sideline, and he has lost a little bit of his original subtlety. But of all the show's original memorable villains, Mojo Jojo is still quirky and fun enough that he remains the best part of a not-so-good remake. And the number one best character from a bad cartoon is Stewie from Modern Family Guy.
You may think that song and dance is dated, boring and dry, but you might just learn to like it if you give it a try.
A lot of people will probably disagree with me on this one, as not everyone sees Modern Family Guy as a bad cartoon. But personally, I found as Family Guy got worse, strangely, Stewie got better.
The rooster goes...
Kikeriki!
Where? Where does the rooster say that?
While in early seasons, Stewie started out as a fairly one-dimensional Bond villain, just obsessed with killing his mother, he steadily developed into the flamboyant, well-rounded, and slightly bisexual guy we know today.
Love it. Hate it.
The best part of the show for me remains when Stewie and Brian go on an adventure together, because from skits to song and dance sequences, they always complement each other so well. Stewie has steadily become more free-spirited, self-deprecating, and just more pleasant to watch. Whenever Stewie dresses up, pulls out a dance number, or even does a cutaway joke, a lot of the time they remain the best part of the show for me. While Brian is mostly presented as an intellectual, pretentious jerk, Stewie is always there now to call him out when he's being immature or petty, and that's surprisingly cathartic. I mean, like all Family Guy characters, Stewie can go back into psychopathic mode and become about as likable as a Grand Theft Auto character. But for the most part, I nowadays find it much easier to laugh at his colourful, over-the-top skits than all the rest of the cast. I feel like some of the best material for the show is saved for Stewie, and I'm glad, because Stewie is probably the only part of the show I'll miss when Family Guy finally disappears. Though it doesn't look like that's gonna happen anytime soon. I really enjoy looking at the best and the bad, because for every negative, unlikable series, it's important to acknowledge the positive steps that have been taken to better the show.
Tea?
No thanks.
Even in the lousiest, shoddiest, most irritating shows, there can be shreds of intelligence and good intentions hiding behind these characters, and they can really help brighten these cartoons and give them more life. And if you've got a cartoon character you like in an otherwise bad cartoon, feel free to share it in the comments. And a big thanks to my patrons on Patreon. All my videos are now supported by you directly through Patreon, so I appreciate you checking it out. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.